I live alone. That's not a tragic confession or a badge of honor. It's just a fact, like saying I floss or that I eat cold pizza standing over the sink. After my divorce, my parents helped me buy this house. A fixer-upper, they said. Vintage charm, good bones, perfect for a fresh start. Which, in parent code, meant, we're not giving you money for a condo downtown, but this place has walls and a roof. You'll survive. And I did. The house creaks when it rains and sighs when it's cold. But it's mine. Or, at least it feels that way most days. I'm the kind of woman who thrives on order. Color-coded inbox, scheduled laundry days, grocery lists sorted by aisle. Some people call that neurotic. I call it self-preservation when you've grown up in a house where nothing was ever where you left it, emotionally or otherwise. So I noticed things. I was packing for a 4-day work trip, just another rollout meeting, for cities in 5 weeks. Nothing exciting. I had my chargers coiled like little soldiers, my TSA liquids in their sad Ziploc bag, when I walked past the living room and saw it. The floorboard. Not broken. Not cracked. Just off. One plank, middle of the room, was barely raised, maybe half an inch. Enough to catch your sock if you weren't paying attention. Enough to make you stop and tilt your head and think, that wasn't like that yesterday. I crouched down, pressed on it. It wobbled. Not loose exactly, but like it had been lifted and put back by someone with just enough care to not get caught, but not enough to fool me. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe the wood expanded. Maybe it always looked like that, and I just never noticed. But I'm not that kind of person. I notice. Always have. So, I did what any self-respecting overthinker would do. I ordered a set of mini security cameras. Motion-triggered.
Audio-enabled.
Tucked into plants and bookends, and one inside a hollow candle on the mantel. Just in case. Honestly, I thought maybe it was a raccoon. Or, God forbid, rats. I didn't think it would be him. I didn't think it would be them. But that floorboard, that was the first lie the house ever told me. And I was about to find out how many more it was hiding underneath. I left home on a Monday morning. 4 days of work travel. Small town. Mediocre hotel. Endless meetings. Nothing unusual. Except for the tight knot sitting in my gut, the kind of feeling your instincts throw at you when logic refuses to cooperate. That first night, after a long day of spreadsheets and stale sandwiches, I collapsed onto my hotel bed and opened my phone. No real reason. Just curiosity. I tapped into the camera feed. Nothing. The living room was dark. The timestamp read 12:42 a.m. I was about to close the app. Then, right at 12:43, the back door opened.
No alarm.
No clinking of locks. It just opened.
Softly. Casually.
Like it had every right to. A man walked in. Middle-aged.
Tall.
Slightly hunched. Old jacket. He didn't hesitate. Didn't look around. He walked straight through the kitchen, right into the living room, like he'd done it 100 times before. I shot upright in bed, my heart climbing into my throat. He pulled out a phone, turned on the flashlight, bent down right in the center of the room, the exact spot I had noticed the other day. In one practice motion, he lifted a floorboard. Not with effort. Not with surprise. Just lifted it. Underneath was a hole. Not a crack. Not storage. A hole. Leading down. And he went in. I couldn't breathe. Not from fear, but because my brain was spiraling. No forced entry.
No fumbling.
This man had the code. He knew where to go. He knew the floor. A few minutes later, he came back up from the hole, dusted off his hands, replaced the plank, and left. Just as casually as he came. He didn't steal anything. Didn't leave anything. Didn't even glance at the camera. I just sat there, screen glowing in my hand, hearing the pulse in my ears. I don't have a basement.
I do not have a
basement. The next morning, I called my father. Was this house ever owned by one of your friends? There was a pause on the other end, longer than it needed to be. Finally, he chuckled, that soft, dismissive kind of chuckle people use when they're stalling. You're imagining things. Maybe the previous owner left something weird behind. My throat tightened. Who exactly sold me this house? This time, no immediate answer. Harold. An old friend. Nothing shady. It's just an old place. Don't make it a big deal. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened an old email from my mother, the one she sent me last year when she found the perfect home after my divorce. She'd said, "It's ready. You just need to sign." I remember signing the documents without really reading them, because I was tired, because I trusted them. Attached to the email was a PDF. The transfer of ownership. Seller's name, Harold Knox. At the bottom of the document, a small note. Preferential transfer between family members. I read that line 3 times. Family? I've never heard of a Harold at any birthday, wedding, or funeral. I put the phone down. This time, my hands weren't shaking. I wasn't scared. I was angry. Not because something had happened, but because I knew, without a doubt now, that I had been written into a story I never got to read. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of nightmares, because my brain refused to shut up. I had seen him, that strange man walking into a hole under the floor of my house. And my father had lied. My mother had stayed quiet. The next morning, I started digging through building records. It took me nearly 3 hours. I had to log into the county's permit archive. Using an old account I made back when I thought I could DIY my kitchen remodel, I gave up after 2 forms and a rage quit. And there it was.
No basement.
I repeated it in my head like a protective mantra. But in the land use registration, there was a small field crossed out in pen. Faint, but legible. Underground storage, pending clearance. My heart kicked hard. Not because it was there, but because someone had tried to erase it. And suddenly I remembered. When I was little, my dad used to come home late, smelling like antiseptic. White powder on his sleeves. Dust on his shoes. Every time he returned, my mom would suddenly get busy. "Go upstairs, honey. Don't come into the living room." One time I asked, "What does Dad do?"
She didn't look at me.
"He works in storage. You don't need to understand." And I didn't.
But now?
Now I needed to. That night, I came home and waited until it was dark. Lights off.
Door locked.
I stood in the center of my living room, the room I'd thought of as entirely mine. And then I knelt down. That floorboard, the one I must have walked over 1,000 times. I slid my fingers along the edge. Lifted.
No cracking.
No resistance. Just willingness to know. Underneath, a narrow, wooden staircase. Slightly tilted. Leading into darkness. I don't have a basement. I had believed that for a full year of living here. For all those quiet weekends spent mopping floors, wiping counters, and posting finally home selfies with some stupid plant in the background. But now, this wasn't just a house. This was a leftover chapter from a story no one erased. Or worse, one they deliberately left behind.
For me.
I used to think this house was my salvation. That after everything, a broken marriage, a layoff, a dwindling friend list, at least I had a roof over my head that I could call mine. My parents didn't say much when they showed it to me. Just that it was a special opportunity, a post-divorce gift, a place to start fresh. They called it a no-strings-attached gesture. But the more I look back, the more it feels like an unspoken inheritance than any gift. They picked this house. They found it. They negotiated. They signed. They emailed me the papers. All I had to do was sign my name, no questions asked, no questions welcomed. At the time, I didn't wonder. I was tired. I was grateful. I thought they were taking care of me. But now, standing over the floorboard that someone had quietly lifted and replaced, I'm starting to wonder, how much of my life did I actually choose? I didn't choose this house. I didn't choose the location. And now, apparently, I didn't even get to choose whether or not there's a staircase hidden beneath my floor. They knew something. No one picks a house with a secret basement and says, "Oh, this suits our quiet daughter." No one uses the word "suits you" for a place they themselves would never live. I remember the feeling as a child, standing just outside the living room, hearing the door shut behind my father.
No te ve.
No music. Just footsteps. And my mother's voice from the kitchen. Stay upstairs, honey. There's nothing for you down here. Not angry. Not firm. Just cold. I used to think they were protecting me. But maybe they were just protecting the distance. Maybe they've always known how to hide things they didn't want explained. No discussion. No reasons. Just silence between sentences, between looks, and now, quite literally beneath my floor. When I pressed my hand against that wood, I wasn't just opening up a truth. I was opening a part of myself, the part that had let other people choose for me, package it as love, logic, what's best. And now, beneath this polished, faintly vanilla-scented wood, there's something no one's had the courage to look at. I don't know what made me go down those stairs. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was fear, not quite named yet. Or maybe it was just the sinking feeling of realizing I'd been written into a story without ever being handed the script. The staircase was narrow, the wooden railing colder than it should have been. Every step echoed, not just in the room, but in my memory. I felt like I was 8 again, standing behind the door, listening to my parents whisper about things I wasn't old enough to hear. Not close enough to understand, but close enough to know I wasn't included. The basement wasn't dusty. It wasn't forgotten. It was prepared. Still in use. The walls were tiled in pale gray. The floor, spotless. There were no cobwebs. No signs of time. Just control. Meticulous, unnerving control. To the left, a steel shelving unit. Each metal box was labeled by hand. Q4/unreported. Internal only. Urgent stock, keep below.
No dates. No codes.
Just quiet intention. To the right, a steel filing cabinet. I opened it. My hands weren't shaking, but my chest was tight. Inside were thick folders, worn edges, pages slightly yellowed. Some marked with sticky notes. Some still stained with what looked like old coffee. It didn't feel criminal. It felt like a very organized cover-up. And that was worse. In the center of the room, a cold, stainless steel table. On top of it, an old tablet, back cracked, charger wrapped messily around the base. It had been used. A lot. I didn't hesitate anymore. I powered it on. No password.
No PIN.
Just one folder. Footage 2016 to 2021. I tapped the first video. Grainy image. Low angle, probably a hidden camera. A man handed a bag to someone else.
No conversación. No hesitación.
They moved like they'd done it 100 times.
Second video.
Third.
Fifth.
Different people. Same pattern. Sometimes a woman in scrubs. Sometimes a man in a baseball cap, glancing over his shoulder before stepping in.
No panique. No rush.
Just deficiency. Then came video 8. And there he was, Harold Knox. And next to him, my father.
No mask. No pretense.
Just my father, arms crossed, standing in the center of a room he clearly knew like the back of his hand.
He didn't speak.
He didn't need to. His presence said enough. I stepped back. I needed air. The kind you don't get in sealed rooms built to hide truth. I climbed the stairs slowly, one by one. Each step heavier than the last. I felt contaminated. Not by dust, but by the knowledge that I had just excavated a version of my family I was never meant to meet. I dropped the tablet on the coffee table, picked up my phone, and opened my old inbox. I searched for the email. The one my mother sent me 2 years ago. Subject line. House contract. Sign, ASAP. But it was the last line that hit hardest. One I hadn't noticed back then. But now it burned. Harold will be so happy to see the house being looked after again. The house. Not a gift. Not a new beginning. Not love. They hadn't given me a place to heal. They'd given me a problem to inherit. A sealed box they could no longer keep closed. So they handed it to the quiet daughter. The obedient one. The one who didn't ask questions. And worse. I'd been all three. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates or storm into my parents' house demanding answers. I'd been raised better than that. Or rather, I'd been raised to never make noise. But this time, my silence wasn't submission. It was a strategy. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not the family friend. Not someone from town. Just someone with no strings attached, found online, neutral. I emailed him everything. The scanned deed. The land registration with the scratched-out, underground storage line. Screenshots from the tablet. Footage from the hidden camera. The man entering through my floor at midnight. I didn't say, I want to sue.
I said,
I want to know what I actually own. I want to know if it's still legal to live here. I want to make sure no one else holds keys to my house, metaphorical or not. That night, I sat at my desk and created a new Gmail account. Username, GroundTruth001. I zipped all the videos and emailed them to the public tip line for local health inspectors. No name. No contact info.
no threats.
Just one sentence. This basement is not in the original construction permit. Potential unauthorized storage.
Anonymous tip.
Then I shut my laptop.
No refreshed.
No follow-up. I went to bed and I actually slept. 3 days later, a quiet investigation began.
No sirens. No headlines.
But Harold Knox's name appeared in a local news segment. Longtime property owner questioned in connection to potential unlicensed medical storage.
No mugshot. No accusation.
But in a small town like mine, you don't need a headline to start a fire. And then my phone buzzed. It was my mother. I didn't pick up. Instead, a message came through. You know your father didn't mean to hurt anyone. Don't blow this out of proportion. Family is about forgiveness. I read it twice. 3 times. And with each pass, a new kind of heat rose in my chest.
Didn't mean to?
So what? The basement built itself? The tablet, the footage, the contract signed in my name just accidental?
No.
They knew. They just didn't think I'd ever look too closely. And they were almost right. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood. I didn't owe them an explanation. I didn't owe them a response.
And I
didn't owe them the gift of my silence anymore. I cleared my desk, printed 2 copies of the property records, one for me, one for my lawyer. I changed the back door lock, bought a second camera, this one pointed into the basement. And then I made tea, sat in the quiet, watched the sunlight crawl across my hardwood floor. And I thought, they use silence to keep me in my place. Now I'll use it to make sure they never rise above it again. I wasn't waiting for an apology or a last-minute confession. I already knew everything I needed to know. And honestly, the rest didn't matter anymore. I listed the house. No family connections. No asking my parents to recommend someone trustworthy. Just a brief ad posted on an obscure site. Private home. 1 floor. Quiet neighborhood. No major repairs needed. I left out the part about the basement. Not to hide it, but to remind myself I was no longer responsible for it. A month later, I moved out. No note. No key left on the counter. The front door clicked shut behind me with a flat, dry sound. That was enough. I rented a smaller apartment. 1 bedroom, bright kitchen, clean white walls, windows facing the trees. Not too quiet. Not too isolated. Just enough space for me to hear my own voice again. No one knew where I was. I changed my number, deleted Facebook, locked down Instagram, kept only my work email and an old camera, the only thing that still held memories I chose to keep. I started learning how to live without flinching, without checking the floor every morning, without wondering what help used to come with hidden terms. And finally, I sat down. Turned on the camera.
no makeup.
No ring light. Just me, and a truth that didn't need filters. I looked straight into the lens. My voice didn't shake. It didn't harden either. It just was. I used to think home was where you found peace. Turns out, sometimes you have to leave to realize where you were really meant to be. I breathed. Not a heavy sigh. Not for drama. Just a real breath, the kind that doesn't pretend. And if you've ever thought that family would never keep secrets from you, install a camera. Just make sure you're ready to know the truth. I didn't punch the last line. I let it fall.
Soft.
Like a door closing behind you, not slamming, but locking from the outside. If you've ever felt like a part of the truth was kept from you by your own family, if something felt off but you couldn't name it, and you stayed silent thinking it was the right thing to do, leave a comment. Hit like if you've ever had to walk away from what was called home just to find yourself again. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that make you pause and see things differently. Silence used to be the cage I lived in. Now, it's the way I walked out.